And also Magnus feels it that he has to be very sharp, I think. And he takes f5.
F5, and Magnus was about to make a quick move, but then he pulled his arm back once again. And that's not a good sign.
No, white has to be extremely careful with the black squares. That's what he has to look after. And I completely understand his move queen e3. In other hand, I think black can easily try to go g5 possibly, for example, right now. And it is very shaky for white, I must say. I mean, now there is something created by Fabiano. I think it was blundered by Magnus, this queen check, and then black can move away his knight in a way that black doesn't have to exchange queens.
Because in that position after queen d6, knight takes d7, queen takes d7, queen c2, he had also bishop takes c6 as an option.
Yeah, but I completely understand he didn't want to do that because the white pawns could be taken by checks with queen b1, queen a2.
I was all falling with checks, so this was the best he could have.
Yeah, he didn't. I mean, this is also about the quick game, right? That you don't have time to really calculate everything, and you go on after your intuition. But not all the time. It's perfectly you sense the danger, and here it can be very dangerous for white, which obviously Fabiano also feels that at least he has little chance. And knight e6, regrouping his knight. First of all, it was not possible, but he stops this possible b4. Now, knight g5 and later on to play f4, possibly to go f3, can be an interesting thing. b4, completely understandable by white side that black cannot take the pawn for the moment because actually the knight just went to e6. I'm not sure knight e6 was a good move at all because now white can be extremely quick by playing the move c5. So I think knight c6, knight e6 was not a good choice. I think black had to play something else. But of course, white wants to get immediately counter chances, and having his pawn on c5, possibly c6, and the queen on d6 stands very well. So it is also not only important to push the pawns to c5 to have a counter chance and pass pawn, but also it is very important for white to kick away the queen on d6. And now Fabiano is going behind in time, and he went knight g5, which is it's a good place for the knight. In other hand, it will only be useful if black would be able to push f4. So white will be making the move c5. I don't think there is another move. He's just double checking it. And after queen d1, suddenly, actually even queen g1 is possible. And in the next move already c6 is coming. So I'm not sure it was a good regrouping maneuver. But also after queen d1, king h2 is completely possible to be playing. And I have the feeling that actually the small chances what Fabiano, I felt that he might have, it's, maybe it's not gone because queen f6 is an important move actually, because immediately he wants to go f4, f3, which, still, of course, we have to check what happens if c6, f4, queen d3 check. And actually,
Magnus was about to play c6, and then he pulled his arm back. c6 now on the board, knight e6.
Knight e6. Wow. This is a strange way of putting your pieces. Three moves ago, white's pawn were c4 and b3, and now suddenly white is taking over, or what?
And he maneuvered his knight so that the queen could be on the other side of the knight.
No, this was
a waste of time. It feels.
Yeah. Now actually white is better, I think, because the queen on e3 suddenly is optimally standing. The pawn on c6 actually making the knight to be standing on e6. White wants to go b5. On the other hand, f4 will not make any good for black because of the white squares will be weak. So actually, Fabi had only for a few seconds something might be happening, but he knows exactly that with knight on c7 you will not win the game.
No, unfortunately this is even more unlikely than before. Queen f4,
and now everything is collapsing kind of, because knight e6 back. Well, I wonder if queen d6 will be the move. I think queen d6 seems to be a better move than to go back to e3.
Even though a draw is good for Magnus.
Yeah, but I think in this point he's going to go queen d6, and the match will be over soon. Well, of course, he's hesitating because playing queen e3 is repetition, but I have the feeling that queen d6 may be even objectively a better move.
Yes, according to some of the tweets, the Norwegian supercomputer Sassy predicts a winning line for Magnus already. We are not going to check it. We are not using an engine. But queen d6, Magnus is going for it. He doesn't want to repeat.
Well, very sad moments for the challenger, I must say, and for his fans. But we have to give all the credit to the world champion that he was extremely powerful in today's match. And actually, he performed quite a similar thing than also in matching against Karyakin. You could feel that actually it's not a fight.
Yeah, he was dominating even in the games that were drawn. So basically, Sergei just managed to escape in those games, and then
you could feel the full domination in that one, and here too.
Yes.
So it's clear that he played much better today. In all performance, not only chess, but somehow he could handle the situation much better.
Yes, that is true. And even though Fabiano must have been preparing for the Rapid in the past 7 months, it seems it wasn't enough.
So king h2, knight d4, what can he have on his mind after c7? Knight e2.
Tricks.
Yeah, knight e2, white would be, well, because for the moment c8 is not possible to queen because of queen b1. Queen g1 mate, but white will be going queen c5, and actually game is over because it's not only that white is threatening to queen, defending g1, but also attacks the f5. So I don't really see what black had in mind, but
it seems to be game over, and it is going to be 3-0, and the World Championship match will be over with Magnus Carlsen defending his title in a very convincing way today in the tie breaks. This is a heartbreaking moment for Fabiano, of course, when he has to admit that it's all over, and he can only try once again to take the title from the world champion in 2 years. If he qualifies, first he will have to qualify again by winning the candidates tournament.
Well, c8, queen, and winning a piece. This is the simplest, but queen c5, yeah, it's even more painful. And the match is over.
Unfortunately for Fabiano, it is time to resign and tell Magnus that he can be world champion for 2 more years at least.
Yeah, very difficult moments for Fabiano, because he knew already a few moves ago that he's not going to make it, but now he has to have the strength to give up the game.
And the match.
And say congratulations to his opponent, to Magnus keeping his title. Very painful playoff for Fabiano. Extremely painful moments, seconds, which seems forever.
2.5 minutes left for the challenger, but it doesn't really change the situation. His position is lost, and he will need to resign.
He cannot believe that he didn't give a better fight in the playoff.
That's what he's thinking, not the position.
Yeah, and that's the biggest pain that a player has, that if you know that you gave a good fight, you understand that the other one was better. But he knows it exactly. He understands it very well, that he could do much better than that. He could give a much better fight to Magnus than that. And and this is what is painful, when you feel that you could do much better, and it will be in his head for quite a long time.
It will be. I wonder if he will try something, anything, although his position is completely lost, or he will resign in this moment.
Well, there is maximum 1.5 minutes we're going to be sitting there and
Queen
seeing.
E3. So after C8 Queen.
No, he just cannot believe it, that this was what was happening today. It's not a good day, he will remember, Wednesday, 28th of November.
No. C8 Queen is on the board. Magnus Carlsen is winning Game 3 as well in the rapid playoffs. F4, a last try by the challenger, but he knows that his position is lost and that he has lost his chance to take the crown from Magnus.
Yeah, he's just not ready to finish this game.
And now it's a handshake. Magnus Carlsen defends his title in London.
What a match, what a playoff, what a drama. It's definitely, it is. We can say that for Fabiano it's a very upsetting day, and for his team, and for his family, and everybody who helped him. I mean, it is, unfortunately, I know it exactly how it feels when things go wrong, when you worked so hard for it. Some people say that you were doing better than your opponent, but still, at the end of the result, it is Magnus who stayed the world champion after 5 years, nearly 5 years, again for another 2 years. And, well, it was a fantastic playoff. I thought it will be more excitement because going back and forth, so in some ways it was, I cannot say too easy, but it was kind of, it flowed very much on the direction of Magnus, right? He took the upper hand and he controlled the match practically. So Fabi couldn't deal with the pressure. And of course, after game 1, it was almost impossible to turn it back because it was so painful. And there was such a little time to get over it. And actually, after such a situation, of course, I'm sure Fabiano would just like to go out of the building and not to see anybody for at least 24 hours. But he cannot do that.
He can't do that. And I just wanted to remind our on-site and online audience that we will have interviews with the players now, and then the final press conference takes place right after the interviews. We are going to broadcast both the interviews and the press conference. And an hour later, an hour after the press conference, you can see the closing ceremony as well, the award-giving ceremony, where we celebrate Magnus Carlsen as the world champion once again.
Yeah, fantastic world champion's career, right? I mean, this was really, really, really close that it does not happen, his dream to be defending his title. But I hope after this victory he finds himself back and will see some of the greatest moments what he had before. And we'll see some great games from him. And, of course, we have to congratulate him, because he must have been suffering, experiencing some of the most difficult moments in his life. He knew that he's playing against the strongest player. It can be to him to be the opponent. He respected Fabiano very much, so it was a very fair game from this point of view. He didn't take advantage. He didn't make a deal out of the video which came out, which could have been a problem, or, I mean, he was honest all the time during the press conference. He
even had a head injury, which he survived, luckily.
Yeah, I mean, he's a world champion. We can be proud of to have him, generally speaking, even though that we have our doubts about the quality of, not the quality of the games, but the risk he took. And it would be nicer to see in a classical form of the game to see him win and to have decisive games. But I think he did so much for chess until this point also, and I'm looking forward very much that he's going to do a lot of other things also, and that we see great games from him in the future.
And the system, the format of the championship, that is 12 classical games, I have seen also many comments about this. Why only 12 games? Why is there a rapid or blitz tiebreak afterwards? That's not about the players. The players are playing the system that they are given. This is the tournament regulation. And yes, it's a food for thought for now the new FIDE team, and if they are going to change the World Championship format for the next championships, the next cycle, because perhaps it could be improved, and perhaps we need to see more games, or there should be something that makes it different, so that we don't see once again a 6-6 with no decisive games, and then it's decided in rapid.
Well, I think there are a lot of talks already from professionals, from the officials, from the amateurs. Everybody's giving ideas, and everybody's looking forward to changes, to make it more interesting, more going into the direction to have more decisive games. But no matter whether we have decisive games or not, we have to talk about the players, to respect them, that they really put everything into the game, what they could, which they felt that they are able to. No matter how much Magnus was preparing well or not well. I mean, the pressure was on him. Of course, Fabiano was working very hard, and he kind of would have been deserving partly because he showed great preparation. But it seems that he was not showing enough to become a world champion, because after all, Magnus really has such a character and such a strong will to stay world champion, right? That somehow it was stronger, especially in this playoff day, that, I mean, you're not world champion by chance. You do something right.
Yes, he has been world champion for 5 years. Now it's at least 2 more years with Magnus Carlsen wearing the crown, and he has been the world number 1 for even longer, almost 8 years. He was about to lose not only his crown, but also the world number 1 spot here. Now we know that he defended the title, and he remains world number 1, even though the rating point difference will still be just 3 points between Magnus and Fabiano, and that can change in just one tournament.
Still, I think that probably Magnus will have to consider what things are going well and what are not so well, what are successful, what can be not so well prepared, his attitude, his preparation, his opening preparation, his motivation, whatever, because he cannot lose his crown, but he can lose himself being number 1 in the world. So I think that would bother him just as much as losing the crown. So I'm really looking forward to see him being a world champion for the next few years, but also following his game and chess, and how he can modify his game or look for deep ideas, which we can say again that, wow, this is so deep, this is so much Carlsen, right? That he's the world champion, nobody can catch him, as it was few years ago. I remember discussing it with some of the top players. They said, I can make a draw against him, but how to beat him? So that was the huge question. But now in rating, he's very near to Fabiano still after this match. But for the moment, I think everybody should celebrate him that he was able to win today so convincingly.
He deserves it. He certainly showed today that he was superior to Fabiano. Yes, there have been 12 draws, but as Judith already expressed it a couple of times, they have fought so hard. They put everything they could on the board, and the 12 draws were not for the sake of, we want to make a draw. They were trying, but the level was so close. Their strength is so close at the moment that they couldn't get the better of each other. There were some moments, very few moments, when they missed. Game 1 was a big miss for Magnus. Game 6 and Game 8 were a missed chance for Fabiano. Not as big as Game 1, but that's 2 games. And it's being added up. After Game 10, there was a different championship. We saw Magnus Carlsen with a new mindset. He just wanted to get 2 draws, head for a playoff. He managed, and today he proved why he was playing for a draw, even in the last game with an advantage.
Absolutely. It was shocking to see what he was doing in Game 11 and Game 12. I was already shocked when he did, not very much shocked in New York, when he did the draw in 12. In the 12th game against Karyakin, not playing for a win with the white pieces in the last game. That I understood. Actually, I understood it later only, that actually what a genius idea he had to take so many rest days. And while Karyakin was, of course, very heavily preparing for the last black game. So I think that was a great practical decision. And now, of course, now it was shocking for me that when you get the opportunity suddenly, you give it away because you're so much focused and your mindset is so much on the maybe 2 days later happening. Just not easy for White because the E5 really incredible, and in some way I can say that something that you want to play that with Magnus showed his strategical thinking. If Knight E4, it might have been going wrong though, but still that the way that it worked and how convincingly it worked today. It is something to think about, but definitely I'm not saying that he can be proud of himself doing so from chess point of view, because it's something we don't want to have, right? But it is something that from sport point of view, he did something exceptional, which actually proved him right. And that has to be respected, I think, quite a bit, which doesn't mean that we cannot criticize him, because some people say, why do we criticize? How do we dare to criticize Magnus Carlsen, the world champion? We can, I think. We can criticize, we can say our comments, we can say our feelings, how we feel about the world champion's decision, which does not mean that he's not right, as he proved it right now. But I think we had our own ideas and rights in the things what we were saying. But he's going to be staying the world champion, and the credit goes to him that he did a good job at the end.
Definitely, and this should give him a boost. He won in the rapid portion, but I think it should give him a boost in general. And now we are going to talk to the challenger, Fabiano Caruana.
Didn't really have any chances. I mean, the first game was close, but after that, it was the second game was very bad and really the low point. And the third game, I tried to fight, but never really got a chance.
What went wrong for you in the first game? Because you overmissed something in the rook ending.
Yeah, I overlooked rook e7. Otherwise, I would have thought and played rook a2. I was only looking at rook g7, and then there I saw a draw, and I was a bit careless.
If we talk about the second game, you had a quite comfortable position. If you wouldn't play c5 or maybe just continue pressing, what do you think about it? What pushed you to make this c5? Maybe it's too early, maybe?
Yeah, c5 is bad, and maybe my moves before that were also questionable. Yeah, it was a very bad game. I didn't play well at all in that game.
You know, actually, the tiebreaker is quite tough all the time because it's nervous and things like that. How do you feel? Maybe you didn't sleep well, last night. How was it for you?
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't in the best physical shape. I don't want to make excuses though, but nothing was going right today.
In general, okay, you have the classical match 6-6. It's still. Are you feel that you are able to fight with Magnus in the near future?
Yeah, of course. I feel that I can fight with him, but the important thing was to fight with him in this match. And although I managed for most of it, at the end I was not playing at his level or even close to it. So yeah, it's of course a big disappointment that I didn't play well today.
Can you call him the strongest chess player in the world? Because, at the critical moment he's able to concentrate and to push harder.
Yeah, I think the results show that he is the strongest player in the world, and he's a world champion, so it's quite fitting. I think people are putting more of a fight to him these days than in the past, but still he has the best results.
If you were like that in the back, I can do it.
Maybe you can just move a bit. Yes.
Magnus Carlsen will soon join us for an interview, and then both players will attend the press conference. Fabiano said that yes, Magnus is the best player in the world, but it's close.
Yeah, I mean, you could see him that he felt that physically he couldn't reset himself for the playoff, and we could see him being very upset, which is the least we can say on his performance. And I think that, I mean, what we discussed before, that he must be very unhappy that he didn't give.
Let's talk to the world champion, Magnus Carlsen.
You are very easy to reach the title.
I wouldn't say it was easy. The first game was very tense and very tough, and it was only just at the end that I managed to trick him a bit in this ending. And then the second game was very complicated, but it quickly turned in my favor. And yeah, after that, I feel like I did everything right.
You know, after the game number 12, people start to talk that, you know, it maybe was a plan for you, you know, to make the tiebreak, and because you have the favorite and have advantage. What do you think of it, or it was just by case?
No, I most certainly thought that I would have very good chances in the tiebreak, and I made my decision in game 12 based on that.
What do you think about the match in general? 12 games classic, it was still 6-6. You couldn't manage to win, Fabi, in the classic chess.
Yeah, it was very, very tough, obviously. He's a very strong player, and I didn't feel like at any moment that I was very close to winning the match. But fortunately, he couldn't break through either. But yeah, I think it was a very even match, and just today I was a bit better.
You had the opponent Anand, Karyakin, and now Caruana. You won all of them. Who is the hardest one for you?
I think for sure Caruana is the best player among them, and he was he was very strong this time, and I mean the classic game shows that I have something to work on still.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
In a few minutes, the final press conference begins when Fabiano finishes his interviews with the Norwegian television. So don't go anywhere. We are going to talk to the players for one last time. Last press conference, and then the world champion will join us here in the studio. We haven't seen them in person for a while. We see them through our cameras, but never in the studio.
Wow. That will be a moment when the world champion comes in.
Judith, you